You have $50,000 in savings. You should feel secure, you should sleep soundly. But instead you refresh your bank app every morning. You know inflation is eating it. You know stocks would probably grow it, but you can't bring yourself to move it. And here's the strange part. The thing that was supposed to make you feel safe is now making you anxious. Why does the safest choice feel so dangerous? Let me tell you something. This isn't weakness. This isn't financial illiteracy. This is your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. Our minds evolved in scarcity, not abundance. For most of human history, having extra food meant survival. Hoarding meant living through winter. Your great-great-grandmother, who buried coins in a jar, wasn't being paranoid. She was being smart. The problem is we're still running that same software in a completely different world. I think about my own grandmother sometimes. She lived through the Great Depression. And even 50 years later, even after decades of stability and comfort, she kept cash in her mattress. Not a little bit, thousands of dollars, hidden in envelopes, tucked between linens, folded into old books. When we asked her why, she'd just say, "You never know." To us, it seemed irrational. The banks were fine, the economy was stable. But to her, it made perfect sense, because she remembered when banks weren't fine. She remembered when stable turned to chaos overnight. She wasn't being irrational, she was being scarred. And you're doing the same thing, just with different ghosts. Maybe it's 2008, maybe it's the COVID layoffs, maybe it's watching your parents struggle. Whatever it was, something taught you that cash equals control. That as long as you can see the number, touch the account, access it instantly, you're okay. Everything else feels like giving up control, like stepping onto ice you can't see through. But here's what nobody tells you. While you're holding onto that cash, something quiet is happening. Inflation, it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't send you alerts. It's not like a stock market crash where you see red numbers and panic. It's a whisper that compounds. Think about it this way. Cash in savings is like ice in your hand. When you first grab it, it feels solid, real, safe. But hold it long enough and it melts. You're still holding something, but it's not what you started with. Let me give you a number, but I want you to feel it, not just hear it. $100,000 in the year 2000 had the buying power of about $65,000 today. You didn't lose money. The number in your account might have even gone up a little with interest, but you lost groceries, you lost tuition, you lost freedom. The ice melted while you were holding it. And here's the really hard part. You don't know if you're being responsible or just being scared. Everyone's screaming different advice at you. Save 6 months of expenses. No. Save a year. No. Invest it all, you're losing money every day. But nobody explains the purpose of cash. They just throw rules at you without context. It's like being handed a hammer and a saw and being told to build a house without a blueprint. So, here's the truth no one tells you. Cash isn't good or bad, it's a tool, and you're using a hammer to cut bread. Morgan Housel teaches something that changed how I think about this entirely. He says money has 3 jobs: survival, freedom, and ego. Cash is brilliant at one of these jobs, mediocre at another, and terrible at the third. The problem is most people assign it to all 3 at once, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. Let me walk you through each one. First, survival. Cash is your financial oxygen. You don't invest your oxygen. You don't try to grow it or optimize it. You just make sure you have enough so you don't suffocate. This is the emergency fund everyone talks about. 3 to 6 months of expenses sitting in a boring, accessible savings account. Not because it grows, because it buys time when life punches you in the face. I know someone who lost their job in March of 2020. The world was shutting down, nobody was hiring, but they had 8 months of expenses in cash. They didn't get rich from it, they got options. They didn't have to panic accept the first offer that came along. They didn't have to sell their car or move back in with family. They could breathe, they could wait, they could choose. That's the return on cash, calm. The ability to make decisions from a place of stability instead of desperation. But here's where it gets tricky. Survival cash has a cap. Once you've got 3 months, 6 months, maybe 12 if your job is unstable or you've got a family depending on you, you're done. That job is complete. More cash doesn't make you more safe. It just sits there, melting. The second job is freedom. And this is where people trip up. Cash beyond survival doesn't buy safety anymore. It buys optionality. It buys the ability to say no, to walk away, to wait for the right opportunity instead of settling for the available one. Think of it like this. Imagine two houses. One is a mansion, huge, impressive, filled with expensive things, but every room is locked. You can see it all, but you can't leave. You're committed, mortgaged, stuck. The other house is modest, smaller, but it has a courtyard, open space, room to breathe. You can walk out any time. Which one gives you more freedom? $30,000 in cash when you hate your job is worth more than $300,000 in a retirement account you can't touch for 30 years. That's not financial advice. That's psychology. That's the difference between feeling safe and being safe. Cash buys freedom only when you're willing to spend it on freedom. If you're just hoarding it for someday, for some vague future security, it's not a freedom fund. It's just anxiety with a comma in it. I think about Morgan Housel when he was writing The Psychology of Money. He kept 2 years of expenses in cash, not because he needed it for survival, he had other savings, but because he wanted to be able to say no to freelance work he didn't care about. He wanted to focus, to think long-term. That cash wasn't making him wealthy, it was making him patient, and patience in the long run made him wealthy. But here's the warning. That freedom cash has to have a purpose. It can't just sit there forever. Because if it does, you're not buying freedom. You're buying the illusion of freedom while inflation eats your actual options. Then there's the third job, ego. And cash is terrible at this. Because nobody sees it. You can't show it off. It doesn't impress anyone. It doesn't grow into something you can brag about at dinner parties. There's a story I love about a man named Ronald Read. He was a janitor, worked his whole life in quiet obscurity, drove an old car, wore the same jacket for years. When he died, everyone assumed he had nothing. Turns out he left $8 million, not from cash, from dividends, from stocks he bought and forgot about, from letting compounding do its slow, boring, invisible work for 50 years. His colleague, another janitor, kept everything in savings. To be safe, he said, to avoid risk, he retired with $200,000, which sounds good until you realize he worked just as long and saved just as diligently. The only difference was the tool he used. One used cash, the other used time. Here's the harsh truth. If you're saving cash to feel rich, you're using the wrong tool. Cash doesn't compound, it deflates. That's not a moral judgment. That's just physics. It's like trying to build muscle by eating vegetables. Vegetables are good, you need them. But they won't build muscle, you need protein for that. Different tool, different job. So stop asking, should I save cash? Start asking, what job am I hiring cash to do? Let me give you a framework. 3 buckets. Bucket 1, survival cash. The moat. This is 3 to 12 months of expenses depending on your situation. If you've got a stable job, 3 months is fine. If you're self-employed, have a family, work in a volatile industry, go higher. This money lives in a high-yield savings account. Boring, accessible, non-negotiable. This is the moat around your castle. It's not there to look pretty. It's there to protect you when enemies show up. Layoffs, medical bills, the car that dies on a Wednesday. This money has one job. Keep you alive and calm when chaos hits. Bucket 2, freedom cash, the war chest. This is trickier because it's personal. It's enough to quit, to pivot, to seize an opportunity, to say no to something that doesn't fit. Morgan Housel kept 2 years of expenses here when he was writing. Maybe you only need 6 months. Maybe you need 3 years if you're planning to start a business or take a sabbatical. This money also stays liquid, separate account, so you don't accidentally spend it on a couch, but accessible. Here's the rule, this money has one job. Buy you the ability to say not yet or hell yes. Use it or lose it to inflation, but use it consciously. Bucket 3, growth money, the patience factory. Everything else goes here. This is the money you don't need for survival or freedom. This is the money that has time, and time is the only edge normal people have. This goes into index funds, stocks, real estate, anything that outpaces inflation over decades. This is the money you don't touch, you don't check on it every day, you let it sit there and do what compounding does. Slowly, boringly, powerfully. Let me tell you about two brothers. Brother A saves $500 a month in cash for 30 years. At the end, he's got about $180,000. Sounds good. Except inflation means it's really worth maybe $110,000 in today's buying power. Brother B saves $500 a month in an S&P 500 index fund for 30 years. At the end, assuming historical 10% average returns, he's got around $600,000. Now here's the kicker. Brother A felt safer every single month. He could see his number go up. Predictable, steady. No scary red days. Brother B felt anxious every time the market crashed, and it crashed several times over those 30 years. He had to resist the urge to sell, to pull it out, to go back to cash. But only one of them had actual safety in old age. Only one of them could retire without worry. Feeling safe and being safe are not the same thing. Here's the behavioral warning. If you need to check your investment account every day to feel okay, you have too little cash in bucket one. Your survival moat isn't big enough. But if you're checking your savings account hoping it grew, you have too much cash. You're asking it to do a job it can't do. Cash is like a fire extinguisher. You want to have it. You don't want to use it. And you definitely don't stare at it hoping it turns into a swimming pool. So let's come back to the beginning. That $50,000 you have sitting in savings, is it too much, too little? The answer is, it depends on what you're asking it to do. Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner, kept years of expenses in cash even when he was worth billions. Not because he needed it, because it let him think long-term. He said, "I don't want to be forced to sell something I love because I need to eat." That cash wasn't about returns. It was about removing urgency from his decisions. That was the return. Patience, clarity, the ability to wait for the right pitch. Think of cash like firewood on a cold night. You need enough to keep the fire going until morning. But hoarding the whole forest doesn't make you warmer. It just makes you tired from guarding it. The goal isn't to save the most cash. The goal is to save enough that you stop thinking about it, enough that you can be patient with the rest, enough that money becomes boring. Because the best financial plan isn't the one with the highest return on a spreadsheet. It's the one you can actually stick with while sleeping soundly. So if you're saving cash, you don't need to stop. You just need to ask it a question. What's your job? Are you here for survival? Then great, stay in the moat, but know when it's full. Are you here for freedom? Then wonderful, but have a plan to actually use that freedom, or you're just paying an inflation tax for nothing. Are you here to grow? Then I'm sorry, but you're the wrong tool. You need to be somewhere else. Money is simple, but our feelings about it are complex, and the people who win aren't the ones with the best math. They're the ones who understand what job they're hiring each dollar to do, and then let it do that job without asking it to be something it's not. That's it. That's the whole thing. Not scarier than it needs to be, not simpler than it is, just honest.